Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Allison Thompson of the Money Farm, and grains to the plus side, kind of picking up where we left off on Friday. Livestock futures, you're lower except for live cattle. Futures outside markets, the big move is crude oil, which we'll talk about in a moment. Allison, let's talk first of all about the grains. We got soybeans above the $15 mark on the 100-day moving average on Friday, and obviously the reports were very bullish for both old and new crop. And so talk a little bit about how much higher you think we'll likely go here in soybeans.
Yeah, on the soybean side, I think we're definitely going to be well supported on the front months, especially over $15. With tighter stocks, there's definitely the possibility of some rationing taking place. And of course, it's probably ending up with some positioning here ahead of the monthly USDA reports, which again are only about a week out. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in figuring out what this means to those reports as well. As far as new crop, I think that there's going to be some room there, especially with the lower acres compared to corn. And I think it does have to do some work here to get some acres moving. When they're talking 92 million acres of corn, unfortunately, a lot of those acres we saw come in the southeast, but also in North Dakota, and we're pushing up to a late spring up here. So in the later that actually goes, the chances of them probably getting some of those bean acres is probably true. So how it all shakes out here in the end will be very interesting. But given that even the crop insurance prices are still above where we're trading today on new crop soybeans, I think that says that soybeans have a ways to go to push for those acres to get planted at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing the bull spreads work both in corn and soybeans. And in the case of the corn, obviously we're kind of seeing a little report hangover there as well, because the stocks figure was below expectations. It was below last year, but yet we got that big acreage figure that you just mentioned, 92 million acres. Talk about what you think is actually going to get planted up in the northern plains and the northwestern corn belt, though.
Well, I think the jury's still out on that. I don't think anybody knows how our spring planting is going to go. This morning, we're getting rain here in northern Minnesota. And tomorrow, over the next 48 hours, we're expecting upwards of a foot of snow, if not more, in some areas. After that, it does look like they're talking about a possible change in weather shifting after the holiday weekend. But now they're actually talking about a potential another system moving through early next week. And that could be in the form of rain or snow. They're not really sure yet, but it's definitely pushing us further back. But we did get some rain over the weekend. Like I said, it's raining here this morning. It definitely does help with some snow melt. But again, we're gonna get some back here in the next 48 hours. So we'll have to see, but it definitely is pushing things back to what we kind of saw last year, unfortunately. But if that's the case, I think we need to see these markets rally to get the crop in the ground. Especially right now, looking at it, if we do see some flooding in the Red River Valley, which they are expecting could definitely happen, those PP numbers still look pretty nice compared to where futures are trading, but we have seen some improvement there, even just from Friday to today. We are seeing spring wheat come back above that crop insurance level. Soybeans, on the other hand, who have some work ahead of them to get back to those levels. Again, that was 1376. And on the corn side there too, a little bit of work to do as well if you want to get those acres in. So obviously it's going to depend on what weather allows us to do up here. Hopefully it turns around pretty quick, and we know we can get it in the ground if we need to in a short period of time.
Yeah, no doubt. But it seems like 800,000 acres of corn additional in North Dakota, another 350,000 in Minnesota. Looks like a tough or big lift at this point.
At this point, yes. And to be honest with you, I've talked to a lot of guys out in western North Dakota, out to the Montana border, and there's snow all the way out there. And usually they're the ones who start getting in first, with some wheat acres and things like that. But right. They haven't seen any relief either, getting any snow melt going. So obviously the whole state is behind. And the further that goes, and again, with some more snow this week, it definitely does make it less and less likely. That's very true.
What about wheat? What do you see in there? I know spring wheat acres were the lowest in 50 years in the report on Friday, but winter wheat acres were up and overall acres were up. Where do you think the market has to go now?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much expected that we would see higher winter wheat acres, and durum acres came in higher. Wasn't a big surprise. The big surprise was those spring wheat acres. And we saw spring wheat actually trade that on Friday. They were able to maintain gains while we saw Chicago and Casey wheat actually go down a little bit following the report. So it was good to see it kind of differentiate and stick out, because that is obviously the problem area. And they know we're facing a late spring up here, and the later it gets, the less likely all those acres are to get rolled. And to be honest with you, over the last couple of weeks, we've heard from a lot of producers who are looking at a different crop rotation or not doing any more than rotational needs at this point, especially given that prices came down. So going forward, I do think that we'll have to see prices go up to get more acres planted. Otherwise, yes, we definitely could see acres below last year. On the winter wheat side, I think prices, we're seeing a good support level there this morning on wheat exchanges across the board. But we also get the USDA's first weekly crop conditions report today. So hopefully that'll show us what conditions are really like, and the trade will start paying attention to that too more now that the crop comes out of dormancy. So we're getting a lot of new information today on the wheat side that should be supportive for them across the board.
You bet. So we've had a little export business reported again this morning, new crop corn, some soybean oil, but you got to wonder if we start seeing some planting concerns here, and with as tight as stocks are, if we won't see some of our export customers get a little panicked and start coming in here, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, we're basically where a lot of those exports come from up here, and we've actually seen really good basis levels around our area. In fact, old crop corn around here at most elevators is at 0. With obviously ethanol plants and end users being better than that. And of course, Iowa's still seeing some really good basis. And even on the bean side, honestly, with the pullback we had, to get grain moving, it had to come from the basis side. So it was really good to see some of that movement. But if we see demand continue, we're going to have to see some of these basis plays come into effect if we're not getting it on the future side. But thankfully, with yesterday or Friday's report, we should see some good support on the futures as well. But some of these basis moves are definitely going to be worth watching to get some of that grain moved.
You bet. The other thing we're getting a push from is crude oil up over $4, with OPEC saying they're going to maybe cut production.
Yes, that was the big news that came out yesterday, that they're looking at Saudi Arabia and some other OPEC members are looking at cutting production a bit more, which was really surprising given that OPEC wasn't going to be making any more production cuts for the rest of 2023. But interestingly, they do have a virtual meeting that does start today. So it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of that meeting, if they are going to increase or make some more production cuts. I mean, we would, if that's true with yesterday's numbers, they're looking over 3 million barrels per day that would be cut. So it would be a big deal, but we're seeing good support here. We had crude up over $5 on the overnight and still up over $4 today. So definitely some headlines there. And of course, Russia remains the big black swan on our grain markets as well. Usually on a short week, we'd expect it to be pretty quiet on the news front, but obviously with some stuff happening here over the weekend, you never know what we're going to get on a short week like this.
Absolutely. I'll just end with cattle here. Contract highs last week in both live and feeder cattle, future sharply higher cash trade. Do you think we have our normal pattern where we just kind of consolidate and wait for cash news again this week, or not?
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably going to be the case, but cash does remain strong. So yeah, we probably are seeing some consolidation before hopefully we probably are going to make some new highs. The only thing that we're kind of concerned about here with these higher beef prices is a lot of these profits that they're seeing in the cash are going to the producer at this point. So what starts to shift, and we maybe possibly could see some of this increase the beef prices at the grocery store, that might be the change that might hinder some of these higher prices. So we'll have to watch that as that goes forward. But right now, it's really nice to see the higher cash prices be the support.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Allison Thompson with the Money Farm with Markets Now.
Thank you.